remember, once you're here, when you actually pull up the Gizmo, if you take a look, here's the lesson materials. Don't forget the teacher guide is kind of a background area. Student exploration sheet, here is the lesson plan. Here's the answer key to that lesson plan and the vocab sheet. But don't forget, at the bottom, there's going to be supplementary materials. And here I see a total of 6 documents that could actually be used by teachers. So there's different documents that you might find useful for you, etc. I'm going to launch the Gizmo. And then normally what I would do is say go full screen here. And then I would ask students or people in the webinar here to kind of play with the Gizmo. And what you can see here is you can put the fans on the Gizmo. It actually sometimes takes a little bit of figuring to turn the actual fan on. You can change the direction of the fan. You can also put mass onto the fan, 1 block, 2 blocks, whatever you choose, and you can press the play button. You'll see that cart hits the wall, in this particular case, in 8.7 seconds. So then I would ask teachers to kind of play with this for a while and actually take a look at it and see if we can have a little bit of a challenge. One challenge I like to do is create the fastest cart. So pulling up the fastest cart here, you could put all the fans on, thinking that that would do the trick. Turn them on, press play, see how quickly it actually hits the wall. So the cart hit the wall in 4.1 seconds, so I did better than before. Hit the reset button. Here also, initial velocity of the car. This is something that's oftentimes missed. You can actually increase the speed of the cart. So this time I actually hit the wall in 2.7, so I'm even faster than I was before. Other things to notice here, you have a table. You could look at a table view, bar chart. It's kind of neat, I think, sometimes to actually show this as it continues, as it's actually being created. Then there's also a graph here. Same thing, I could reset and actually watch the graph being formed. I can use distance versus time in the graph, or I can switch to velocity or acceleration. So I can see different graphs depending upon what I choose there in actually this whole area. I'm going to go back to the description and continue. Okay, so you can actually see this. All right, then what I would ask you to do is I created a Google document here. Okay, and it looks something like this. I'll give you a copy of this. Let me give you the link here in the chat pod so that you can access this. So Jose, try to actually click on that link so that you can actually see the document. And then what you can see is you can, if you click on the actual document, you can actually write on the blue Post-it note. So the first thing I would ask students, and we can also show you where you can get a copy of this in a full-size poster, or you could do it digitally. The idea is to type on the Post-it note, what did you observe? So Jose, see if you can access and come into this. See if you can actually highlight one of the blue Post-it notes. And what did you observe? If you did it physically with posters in the classroom, you would probably use large Post-it notes and have students write on the Post-it notes and walk up and actually stick them onto the actual physical poster. Yep, and then the orange Post-it notes on the right. What am I wondering? Like, what happens if I turn the fans off in the middle? Yep, great. So you'd have your students actually completing this. Could be done, as I said before, digitally, or it could be done physically with an actual Post-it note. Questions, Jose, or comments? Great. Okay, then we would move on to actually setting up an experiment and trying to set up the experiment. Well, I think, Jose, you would have the students actually doing the simulation. So if you could get into your account, um, and then you'd have them, like, maybe give them 10 minutes to just play with the gizmo and come up with things that they observed. For instance, the more fans I put on the cart, the faster the cart will go. The more mass, if I turn the fans off and on, if I put one to the left, one to the right, the cart doesn't move. So they come up with all kinds of observations as they continue. Right? Okay. And then what we would do, let me just make it bigger so you can see it a little bit better. Then what we would do is set up an actual experiment. And the idea here is to set up a control group first. So the control on this is going to be your initial velocity. Yes, yes, Jose, yes, they would actually do that. Okay. And you could give them time to do it. And it could be done over a series of days also. It doesn't have to all be done in, one particular sitting. So now we're going to move on to an experiment where we actually set up a control and then we run the experiment. So the control is going to be set up in the parameters that are on the screen there. Initial velocity is 0. The mass is going to be 0. And then the fan on the cart, one fan is going to be turned on. Then what the students would do is take a picture of their actual graph. You could do distance versus time, you could do velocity versus time, or acceleration. We're going to do distance versus time. Okay, so we're going to do that. So I'm going to go back to the gizmo and I'm going to take my fans off. I'm going to use one fan. I oftentimes wonder, are all the fans equal? That's a question that you could actually test out. My initial velocity over here is all the way over the right in 2, but I want to make it up to 1. Then I'm going to go up to the graph here, and I'm going to do control, and I have 0 math. So I'm going to let the card go, watch the graph form. I see it hits the wall in 5.0 seconds. I can also see that from my graph. I'm going to go up in the upper right and take a picture. So your students could actually take a picture of the control and actually paste it into a document. So if I click on that camera, I do a right click on my machine, copy the image, go back to my document or actual physical, and I'm going to paste it. And there it is. So that's my control. So I've already set up the control and I've moved from there. And then we're going to move to the next page of this document. This time what you're looking at are 2 different types of variables. The orange at the bottom are the independent variables, the things that you can change. Okay, got you. Let me go back. There you go. Sorry about that. So I took a picture here. I went up here to the right-hand camera, did a right click on my machine, copied the image, and then I pasted it into the document on this page here. So I'm setting up the control. So I'm getting ready to have my students actually set up the actual document here. So then we move to page 3 of this document. As I started to say, there are independent variables on the bottom. So if you switch to this page and pick out an orange Post-it note, gets a little halo around it, you know somebody's using it. And what are the things you can change in this particular experiment? The independent variables. Oftentimes easier to do independent variables first, and then move to dependent variables. So try one of those, Jose, on the orange Post-it notes, independent variables. What can you change? And up at the top, we do the blue, which would be the dependent variables. What are the things you can measure? Right, you got it, Jose. So you'd have your students putting these in, coming up with these either digitally, maybe working in small groups, or else working as a class, whole class with the posters in the room. So down at the bottom, things you can change. You can change that initial velocity. You can change the mass. You can change the number of fans. You can change the direction of the fans. Up on the top, the dependent variables, things you can measure, time, velocity, acceleration, etc. Then we move down to the actual experiment. And this is page 4 of this document. What we're going to actually compare is mass. The thing we're going to change is mass. Our control started out with 0 mass. Then we're going to move to 1 mass, 2 mass, 3 mass, and we're going to eventually take pictures of the graph. So we're going to actually measure the time it takes for that cart to hit the wall. So that's going to be our dependent variable. Here, down at the bottom of the poster, using the orange Post-it notes, are all the things you're not going to change. So you're not going to change the number of fans. You're not going to change the direction of the fans. The only thing you are going to change is mass. So the students would fill in that particular page of the poster. And then we're going to move to our 5th page of this document. So here's where you would put in the actual graphs here. I'm going to go back and do 1. So I'm going to do 1 mass. I'm going to hit reset. I'm going to grab 1 mass and put it on the cart. I'm going to hit play. You can watch the graphs being formed. I'm going to go in the right, take a snapshot, do a right click, copy the image, go back to the document and paste it. You can also set up a table or something like that. I find sizing up the graphs is one of the toughest things. So there's my 1 mass. I can also go back over here to my control and I can bring it down so I can see it. Here's my control. So already you can see that it took longer to hit the wall if I increase the mass. Going back to the gizmo. I can hit reset. I can put 2 mass on the cart, click it to go. I can see that the cart's moving more slowly. Hits the wall in 8.7 seconds. Take a picture. Copy image. Go back to the document and paste. So students are then coming up with a series of their graphs. We might as well do the last one. Here's 3. Take a picture again. Back to the document. And we have all 3 graphs. So then what you're asking your students to actually do is come up with a conclusion here based on looking at the 4 different graphs, from the control to 1 mass to 2 mass to 3 mass. Jose, do you think your students could do something like that? Then our next piece, let me make it a little bit bigger so you can see it more clearly. Well, I think, Jose, at these points, you'd have them doing some of them. And then you come to this last piece. If you look at this last piece of this particular part of the document, if you change your independent variable, what's going to happen to your dependent variable? So this is the point where your students can actually go in and actually, like, what was I wondering, choose something of their own to investigate. So we're really moving now more towards open inquiry. So if I change the initial velocity, if I change the mass, if I change the number of fans, if I change the direction of fans, what are you going to measure? That second part, if you look at the bottom there, step 5, is what is my hypothesis? Based on my independent variable, what are you going to do to your independent variable? The speed of the cart, you could do velocity. You could actually measure velocity instead of doing, time. So yes. And then at this last portion, your students are actually coming up with their own actual experiment. I'm going to change slides here for a minute. So this is what that last piece looks like. Yes, let me go back to the velocity. One second. Here it is here. Here's velocity. So this is with 1 fan and 3. There's my velocity, meters per second. Can hit reset. I can take all the mass off. So we could have measured velocity instead of you using time. So we could do the velocity with one mass, changing the mass, changing the initial velocity, any one of those things. Anything else on that, Jose? Okay, I'm going to switch then. So then this last piece is where students would actually get to explore a question that they were interested in. They'd come up with their hypothesis, they would collect their data with maybe snapshots, descriptions, etc. And then they'd be prepared to report out their findings. So they would give that particular information. So this could be a homework piece. Maybe you do everything with the class in the beginning with the gizmo, and then at this point, this is the homework piece, and they report back the next day. So take a look at this slide. It's talking about the levels of inquiry. And this is how much information the teacher actually gives to the student. So look at that first one, confirmation. In confirmation, the teacher gives everything to the student. So this is really kind of like our cookbook labs, where we kind of know the answer at the end or possibly the solution. So the teacher gives the question, gives the methods, and gives the solution. Gives everything. Okay, strange, huh, Jose? I didn't touch anything. All right. So in confirmation, everything is given to the student. Question, methods, and solution. Take a look at structured inquiry there. In the case of structured inquiry, what's actually happening is you're giving the question as the teacher, and then you're giving the how to do something. The next one is guided inquiry. In guided inquiry, you're just giving the students the question. You don't tell them how to do it, and you don't give them a solution. In open inquiry, what you're looking at here is you're just telling the students we're on a particular topic. Like we're on Newton's laws. You come up with the question, you come up with the method, and you come up with the solution. So all of those things. Now think about what we did here in the beginning. In the beginning, if you did something with your students like create the fastest car, who can come up with the time on the fastest car? In that particular case, you could argue it would either be structured inquiry or guided inquiry. Structured inquiry, if you're saying the methods there are using the gizmo, or probably even better, guided inquiry, use the gizmo, but you're not telling them what to do. That last piece where students could design their own. Right. Yeah, Jose, the goal is always to get to open inquiry, but it depends on where you are in the school year. It depends on the ability level of your students, et cetera, whether you can get to that open inquiry level. But using open inquiry, like that last section there where you design your own experiment, what do you want to investigate with the gizmo? It's really good when you're using gizmos because it's easy as far as preparation goes. Yeah, they want students to come up with your own questions. That's great, but I think a lot of times, depending upon the ability and grade level, the ability level, the time of the school year, whether you can bring students to open inquiry. Yeah, yeah. Right. So, I mean, in a particular group, you may be lucky to get them to structured inquiry, right? Less open inquiry. But the goal is always to get towards open inquiry. So this particular gizmo lesson takes the students through structured inquiry, guided inquiry, and open inquiry. So you're eventually getting to open inquiry. Normally, I would send you out your account now, Jose, and what you would do is you would actually search around for a gizmo that you could use next year that's appropriate and that matches a standard or a topic that you actually are thinking about. And I'd ask you to collect data, look at the ways you could collect data, and look for any discrepant events. Normally, I would have you post this on Padlet. No success with getting into the account there, I guess. So I guess we'll put this on as homework at a later point. Yeah, not good. All right, then what I would normally do is move into a particular gizmo called cell structure. I'll bring that gizmo up for you so you can see it. Cell structure, the topic and also the gizmo, don't necessarily lend themselves easily towards inquiry. The whole idea of cell structure, it's the cell structure like nucleus and what's its function, mitochondria and what's its function. So I'm going to pull up this gizmo. Let me switch screens. I'm going to go to the Explore button, put in cell structure. Again, looking at cell structure here. Here's the standard lesson materials, the student exploration sheet. Again, if you have students do this digitally. Yes, I can. Okay. To the PowerPoint slides, Jose, or to the Google document? Because I can't give you the PowerPoint slides. That's not allowed. Oh, I can't, Jose. I cannot do that. Okay, but I'll give you resources that have quite a few of them in there. The supplementary materials, look down here at the supplementary materials. Actually, we're going to look at this one here, the fourth one, which is an inquiry activity that was pre-written, and it's a Word document, so you can adjust it if you need to. So I'm going to pull this up, launch the gizmo, go full screen probably if you're showing it to your students. And this particular gizmo has been updated and it's been improved. Originally, it always had the animal cell and the plant cell. Now it's added the bacterial cell. So what you do on whichever one you choose, you sample. So you sample the hand and you see the actual cell structure, animal cell there in the picture. You can zoom. On the right, there's a zoom button. You can zoom in or zoom out. You can move the specimen to the left or the right, up or down with the arrows. Originally, there was an arrow that kind of got lost in the mix when you're looking at the structure, but there's a drop-down menu here. So the drop-down menu gives you all the organelles. You can pull up a particular organelle, and it's highlighted, and you get a little description of what the function is here in the box. This one has a close-up. This is new. Not all of the structures have a close-up, but there's a little animation that goes with this. In this particular case, it's showing movement across the membrane. So you can show that and see that as far as students. If you look at other ones, like for instance, the centrioles, there is no little video down here at the bottom, but they're highlighted here and there's a little description. If you move to the plant cells, it's the same thing. You sample the plant, you can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can move it around. And again, the drop-down menu comes up with, for instance, chloroplasts. In the chloroplasts, they're highlighted. Here's a little definition, function, and then there's a little video showing what happens in the chloroplasts. So you see a little photosynthesis going on. Last one is the bacterial cell. You do the same thing from the petri dish. You sample, you can move it around. You can go to like a ribosome. The ribosomes are the bluish highlighted there. You can show a close-up and you can show a little bit of protein synthesis. So again, this is kind of a gizmo or a topic that's pretty straightforward. So the idea is, how do you change this, or how do you move towards an inquiry lesson? So let me show you how you do that. Back to that Google document. You can actually take a look at it yourself on that link. I'll make it a little bit bigger. So this is the document that was down in the supplementary features that is available to you. In each one of these boxes, these rainbow colored boxes, you'd ask your students to actually pick one of these boxes, or maybe have them do all of them. That's up to you. And they go back to the gizmo to get their information. So the first one is, paramecium lives in fresh water, has to pump water out of the cell to maintain a balance. So the idea there is you have to go back to the gizmo and come up with an organelle that will match that description. The whole trick here is, that what you have to do is you have to give your reasoning or a justification why you chose what you chose. In many of these boxes, I think you could choose nucleus. Every single time you could choose nucleus and give your rationale. So you may want to limit that. That's up to you. But take a look at each one of these and think about the cell parts. Like I'm seeing the sperm and traveling swiftly, mitochondria, flagellum. Jose, I see that you'll be teaching physics. You could probably use fan card physics, right? Okay. And you could use the same generic document. There's also free fall tower. There's a lot of good ones topic-wise. So you wouldn't be using something like this. So the whole idea here on this, what we're showing this for, is taking a topic that maybe is tougher to make an inquiry topic. And it all depends on how you approach it, how you actually work with it. Let me move from this. I'll switch slides. Give me a minute. So looking back at those levels of inquiry, how much information is given to the student. So if you look at it, again, there's those little check marks. Looking at the cell structure gizmo, you're probably looking at structured inquiry. So the teacher has given the question, and then the methods are to actually use the gizmo. Yeah, I think you could use that general document also, Jose. There's that definition again of inquiry. Probably the most important there is the bold area. Ultimately construct an argument about the way the natural world works and gather evidence to defend that argument. Taking a look at this, do these activities support inquiry? I think almost all of them could. That cookbook lab would actually be a confirmation type of inquiry lesson. I know, Jose, you're saying that, you'd like to move students onto the open inquiry. If you're teaching physics, you're probably working with higher level students or older students. So possibly you could move to that open inquiry level more quickly. So any of these, take a look at them, could be inquiry, different levels of inquiry. 10th graders, yeah, young for physics, huh? Just teach open inquiry? Okay, interesting. Jose, with Gizmos, it's relatively easy to have an open inquiry lesson. So you're on a particular topic, have the students come up with a question, have them design the experiment and collect the data by doing screenshots, snapshots of their graphs, etc. Can you think of anything else there? To support the district there is research that shows that inquiry does work. If you notice these 3 points, inquiry improves the student's process skills, cognitive achievement, and attitudes to science. The second one there, inquiry produced positive outcomes in literacy, conceptual understanding, and critical thinking. And then the last one, which I always like here, students with disabilities do actually very well with inquiry-based lessons. I'll show you what's available there. There are some, but you have to actually look at the particular list. I'll give you those links. The last page of this document will go back to the document. And the whole idea is, I used to think, but now I know about inquiry. So I'm going to switch screens. Switch. Go back to the Salinas Google Doc. Come to the last page. Here's the last page. The idea is you pick yellow, green, or blue, and you actually come up with a Post-it note there. I used to think about inquiry, but now I know. And then I'll get you into all those documents, Jose. I used to think, but now I know. The gizmos can really be used in many different ways. That's up to you. On the slide, if you could, if you have any comments there, used to think, but now I know. That would be good. Or in the chat pod, either place, wherever you prefer, Jose. Yeah, definitely could be an exit ticket. Good idea. Let me give you some inquiry links. I'll give you this link in the chat pod in a minute. This link is in the chat pod. It's a Padlet page. What I did is I took all the links from today and put them into one location. So this would be a good one to save. What I'd like you to do is take a look at each one of these. If you start on the left-hand side, that white Post-it note here is actually an insight page. Take a look at that. There are lots of documents there that you can actually use. There are lessons, possibilities, all kinds of things. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to surf around that page. There are pages of ideas. You can also do searches, teaching strategies, ideas of how to use Gizmos, and you'll notice there's like 5 pages of them. So take a couple of minutes and take a look at that. There are many helpful documents on the actual site. A bulletin board, like they're talking about, on the wall. Don't use bulletin boards, huh? I think it's physical and creating one. And you may have a particular topic that you want to actually put in, but lots of resources there. Yeah, just, graphics on the wall there in different rooms. Your rooms may not have them anymore. I'm going back to the Padlet page again. Green Post-it note on the left. There's an educator's resource hub. You can also get this from the site. Again, lots of ideas for you. It starts out in levels. A lot of blue. Starts out in levels. The first page, the first heading is getting set up. So if you're brand new to Gizmos, just starting out, it tells you and gives you ideas how to have access and how to set different things up. Then the next level is moving forward. Gives you other things here. What are the STEM cases? It's moving you up another level. Professional development catalog on the right is all the courses that ExploreLearning teaches. So anytime you want to look at any of the materials there, they're all available to you. All the documents that go with the courses. So those are all available. So someday if you're looking for something or you have extra time, you take a look at all this. I'm going back to the Padlet page again. Yellow Post-it note in the middle. There are Facebook pages for ExploreLearning. They're called Base Camp. They're excellent. What you can see is teachers actually giving ideas how they use Gizmos. And you might want to use their idea or get an idea from them. The first one is middle school. The second one is high school. So you probably want that second one. Excuse me, they're backwards. I'm sorry. The first one is high school. Second one is elementary. So you probably want to stick with the first one. So those are kind of interesting pages to follow. Then ExploreLearning, the bottom one on that yellow Post-it note, ExploreLearning has a Shopify page. If you want to purchase anything from ExploreLearning, you can. There is one thing I want to show you on that page. If you go to Gizmos across the top and scroll down, First thing on the left is you'll see the inquiry posters. So you know how we did the digital posters? For $7.50, you can have 4 posters that look like the posters we did digitally. So they're big posters, they're kind of semi-laminated. Students could then use Post-it notes, maybe colored Post-it notes, write their answer on the colored Post-it note, and then walk up and actually put it on the physical poster. So those are available. You can buy mugs, you can buy pens and pencils and those things also. I'm going back to the page again, Padlet page. The Google Slides here, if you take a look at that, that's actually the Google Slides. Free account, which didn't work for you guys today. Purple poster, Google Drive folder. If you take a look here with the Google Drive folder, these are the lesson materials that came from today. So if you look at the first one, lesson planning resources, here's the template for the sticky notes. And you could make those sticky notes that we use, the Google document, and you could use it for any lesson you wanted to use. There's also support here, inquiry workshop, all kinds of documents that are available. Take a look at that. The inquiry posters. These are the actual physical posters. You could print them, use them however you see. So those are available. There's also that levels of inquiry. These are the question, methods, and solution. That's available. So you may want to put that slide in. And the last one is additional planning resources. And that's also some documents there that you can look at that actually are related to inquiry. So lots of things available there. Okay, back to the Padlet page. Again, down in the purple document, these particular slides came from a Canadian site. So there's the link there for the Canadian site. And what you want to do is look at resources down here on the bottom. If you click on that, you can find posters, documents, booklets that all relate to inquiry, that are all available. So that's all in the Google Drive folder in the purple. So you can see that. On the Padlet page, the white is maybe setting up a document that students would actually hand into you from that fan card physics, doing 1 mass, 2 mass, 3 mass, and then giving their conclusion. On the right here, this is where we were going to post our lesson plans. And then underneath it is a collab crew. ExploreLearning invites teachers to be part of a collab crew. So if you're interested, excuse me, you can actually fill out an application about halfway down the page. And what you do is you actually evaluate products that are coming through ExploreLearning. And those particular products are technology related. So if you like technology, like new things, it'd be a great thing to actually participate with. I think that's all of them. Let me make sure. So they're all there, and someday when you have time or you're looking for something, take a look at this Padlet page. It'll remain here and you can actually take a look at it. Let me just switch pages here. That's the Smarter Science. That's the Canadian site there. That's where all these posters came from. So you have them in different ways. So the resource workshops, Here's the Educators Hub also. Those are the documents that help you. Yes, it'll be updated. Yep. Can I go back to the previous slide? This one, Jose, on the PowerPoint? Okay. Yeah, that's the Smarter Science one, which is the Canadian site with the actual resources. And you can actually, yeah, I can bring the link up for you. Hang on a minute. This is that tab. This one here, the resources, the Canadian site. And if you go here, you can see the resources. Here's the posters. And they give you the different posters. You could take a look at them. So lots of good things on that particular page. It's an excellent site. That's on the Padlet page. Yeah, it's the same as the link in the Padlet. Yep, it's the Canadian one. It ends with CA for Canada, so that's an easy way to find it. So they're all there on that Padlet page. The Educators Resource Hub is on the Padlet page, but you can also get it when you can get into your account into the Educators Hub. And that's videos and documents that will help you. You can look at the entire catalog of everything ExploreLearning teaches. That's also there for you if you're interested in looking at that full course catalog. There are videos, there's quick start guide, all kinds of things that you might need. On the left, let me show where the task cards and these materials are on the actual site. And over here on the right, these are things you can buy from the Shopify page. Facebook is on the left. On the right is that collab crew where you evaluate technology products. And let me go back and show you that one page. It's on the Gizmo website, yes. Yes. Hang on one sec. Sorry about that. Okay. Hang on 1 second. Trying to show it to you there, but hopefully you can see it, Jose. I don't know if you can see it. If you go here, you can always put in a key term. If you go to recommended for you, you can see that there are different categories and it's all alphabetical. So you can go to the academic standards. So you go by your states. You could pull up California and bring up the topics. On the right. You can also go by grade and topic. You can also go by core curriculum, which is using the textbook. Or there's a Gizmo list. The Gizmo list one is excellent. It's alphabetical. So it starts off here. Here's, for instance, AP Physics. And you get that little down arrow. And what you can do is scroll down. A lot of times you want to go down towards the sciences. Here are science gizmos that have CERs. Here are ones that have French material, Spanish material that goes with it. Some that are good for STEM cases, etc. The last one there on the list at the top are the STEM cases themselves here. The STEM cases are great, and what you can do is you can actually filter them out by high school, by AP, by topic, etc. So these are the STEM cases, which put the students into the role of a STEM professional, and they actually can see that. You can see that. Yeah, I can show that again. When you're here, you go to the Explore button, and you can, when you're looking for gizmos, a common thing is to put in a topic like Newton's laws, etc. You can also go to recommended for you, where these are related to your profile. I don't actually look at this one too much, but if you say you teach physics, it's going to list things that are related to physics. Academic standards are the next one, and you can actually find your state. So in the blue bubble, you find California. On the right-hand side are the standards. So check out the standards to make sure they're what you think they're going to be. So here's high school physical science. You click on that. And then these are the standards in black. The blue are the gizmos that go with them. So what you could do is you could go right through this and say, yeah, these are my standards. Okay, I'm going to add electron configuration, element builder, etc., whichever ones actually apply to your particular standards. And you could add them to your class tabs as you go, or you could go and look at them and add them one by one as needed. Grade and topic, is another way to filter out on the right-hand side. So you were talking about 10th grade physics. So into high school, we go to physics. These are the actual gizmos that are available. You can, on the left, filter out by these subtopics. You can actually do that. On the right here are the gizmos. You could launch the gizmo. You could add it to your classes, or you could just take a look at it and see if it's what you wanted to actually use. Going back up here, core curriculum. If you use a textbook, you find your publisher's name, and then it'll say chapter 1, these gizmos, chapter 2, these gizmos. The last one here, the last two, gizmo lists, is a really good one. It goes alphabetically, and you might want to take a look at the different levels. Here's different types of physics I see. And here's science with claims, evidence, reasoning. Here's French lessons, Spanish lessons, video preview, task cards, which are usually a one-page document that go with the gizmo. Continuing back up, last one are the STEM cases. If you've never used a STEM case before, they're great. They have something known as a heat map where you actually go in and you can actually see how the students are doing step by step. You can see that happening, and they can you can filter them out. You can filter them out by middle school, high school, AP, or you can look at all of them, and they're here. There's a little mini video that goes with these and some documentation so you can actually see if they're appropriate for your particular topic. So sometimes they're good to use in addition to our more traditional gizmos, to use both of them. Okay, let me switch screens. One second. So the whole idea here is if you need any help on the new site, on the old site, the one you were working with last year, the question mark was in the lower right-hand corner and it was blue. Now the question mark is still there, but it's in the upper right. You'll receive a survey, and you'll also receive a digital badge at the end of the month. At this point, it's probably at the end of August that will actually happen. So the whole idea with gizmos, anytime you work with gizmos and inquiry, is kind of take what we talked about today and experiment with it and reflect upon it and see what you can use, what you can try out with your students. So it takes a little time to actually do that. So takeaways from today, if you take a look, inquiry occurs when students construct arguments, gather evidence to defend their arguments. So we're always going for that claims, evidence, reasoning kind of argumentation piece. Number two, scaffold the different levels of inquiry. I know your district wants to take you to open inquiry, but sometimes you have to start out at the beginning steps and then move towards open inquiry. Number three, inquiry may take place in almost any activity. It all depends on how you think or how you present that particular topic. Let me put this link into the chat pod. One second. Links in the chat pod. It's for your evaluation. And Jose, let me know if you have any questions for me. The collab crew, Jose? Okay, let me show it to you. Here's the link. Link is in the chat pod. It's this pink Post-it note right here. Collab crew. If you click on that pink link or the link in the chat pod, it'll bring you to the collab crew. Yeah, it's kind of neat, actually. Okay, Jose, yes, do you have the link there for the evaluation? Sorry you couldn't get into your account. I really don't know what the story is there. But otherwise, that's it for me. Put my last slide up there. And try Gizmos with inquiry. I think you'll like it. And thank you for attending today, and good luck in the next school year. Thank you. Thanks, Jose.